Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Tragedy into Triumph podcast, where we truly believe that we are transformed by the power of Jesus Christ. We believe that your story is never over as long as there's life and breath in your lungs, that there is an opportunity for God to work in your life and for you to truly find the hope and help that's only found through him. So today, I'm so pleased to be joined by Mark Weber. Mark is a record-holding high school football coach. He's a guy that I first caught wind of at a place years ago where I used to live and got to kind of see the man that he is and the things that he stands for. And then miraculously, he's kind of in my backyard now. And so I got to kind of learn a little bit more about him. And so, Mark, I just want to say welcome. And we're glad to have Mark Weber with us today.
Thank you, Wendell.
Yeah. So, Mark, tell us, we're all about stories here at Tragedy into Triumph. So
Right.
let's walk us through your story, man. You're an Ohio guy?
For sure. Yeah. So I grew up in Oxford, Ohio, Miami University area. My entire life really has been focused on hard work, right? That's the Midwestern dream, right? To work hard. And my parents did a great job of instilling that in me. But with that hard work, it's like these winter months, it's cold, right? People try to find stuff to do, I guess what you're saying. And my life was rooted in hard work, but that faith thing was always missing growing up. Okay. Mm-hmm. My parents were always, well, Sunday we gotta work. We got something to do. But in my heart, I was missing it. Right. So I would go to, like, my neighbors would take me to vacation Bible school growing up, or they would take me to, like, here and there church services and things like that. So it really wasn't ingrained in a household manner. But it was always kind of there. It was there as maybe an afterthought, but it was important in my heart, and I knew I needed it, but I didn't really come to faith until probably, 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So it took, like, I'm talking true faith, like real faith, like, yeah, it's there and it keeps you straight, if you know what I mean. So, but it was like this 30 years of it's there. I know I need it. I know it's there for me. And I didn't really accept it until about 2.5 years ago. So from Oxford, Ohio to Columbus, where I went to college, and then right outside of Columbus, where my first 10 years of coaching, being this young coach, 24 years old, trying to lead men. And I felt like I was really leading men. Like I showed them what hard work was and how to be a good person and things like that. But I wasn't really completed at that time, or I was still missing something, right?
Yeah.
I was going to church events and I know I needed that, but then there was still 10% of my life I didn't have on point.
I got you.
So I was being a good person, right? I was trying to earn it, right? But there's still something in my heart that I was like, man, I'm missing to be loved. I'm missing, like, I had my family, I had my boys, I had a lot of good things. I had plenty of, money, enough money to live a good life, but I was missing that love that can only come from the guy, from the Lord. So yeah, first 34 years of my life, I was looking for that, I guess you would say.
Yeah. And that, from a guy also who grew up in a household where, like, man, nothing good comes in your life unless you work for it, unless you earn it, and so, man, by the time I was 14, I had pretty much full-time job and never looked back. Right. But there was this thing in my life, and I don't know if this applies to you, like, man, in my relationship with God, there was this, I've got to do it. I've got to put the effort in to make it, and I got to grind it out. And maybe I'm not ready for that kind of work, that kind of work in my life. Because it's great to work for everything, the accolades, for everything that we want. It's a whole different story to actually work on, man, this is going to improve my life, right? 100%. It's going to make me a better person. And I think a lot of guys replace work for work on themselves or work on the kind of man God wants them to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, you're working for everyone else, you're serving everyone else, but you forget about yourself.
Yeah.
And, when you say working, you're there at 6 a.m., you're there at 5 p.m., whatever. But then you're also on Sunday finding excuses not to do what really matters for your family and for you.
Yeah.
So then that's where, like, now, we try to do not much on Sunday as far as anything team related. Sometimes there's an exception, but generally speaking, it's like, no, well, I'm not going to be around, so Sunday's our day to pour back into the family.
Yeah, that's good.
So we've kind of made little tweaks to like the program that I don't tell them what to do, but this is what I'm going to do. And that's where you just grow as you get older, I guess. And when you have that real love in your heart, not something where you might go to a church event and you go, I'm saved, or I have the Lord. When you really have it, you don't even have to say it. You do say it, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
I said, I never want to go back to a time in my life where someone would go, man, does he follow God? Like if somebody like has to, they just know by being around you, I feel like if you're following God or you're fighting demons, if that makes sense.
No, that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
Right.
They should, because it should. I mean, what's inside the heart comes out of the mouth, comes out in our actions, right? How we live
100%.
our lives. Yeah. Especially when nobody's around, or
100%.
especially in the heat of the moment too, right? Yeah. So you said about 2.5 years ago, what was the change in your life, man?
So the change was, being successful as a coach, and like I could keep winning, I could keep performing, I could keep having teams that were successful, kids that were academically successful, but something in my life was just missing. Like there was just a void. A big part of that was family. We didn't live around family. We had people that kind of acted as family, but they weren't our true family. And partially my wife was empty because of that. So because she did grow up in a church household, she grew up in a very religious, her mom is very, very religious, speaks it 24/7 and any occasion. Like she's the model of somebody that's living and breathing it. Right.
Sure.
And I knew that is where my wife needed to be and wanted to be, where her family is. So I was like, let's take a leap of faith. And I didn't do it based on God's calling, far as I was doing it for her, but he worked through her. Right.
Yeah.
And after we made a life-changing decision, I just stopped at the church right across from the high school. And I was like, let's just go. I think it was Easter Sunday, which just random, like that it was that Sunday. And we stopped in a service. And I don't know, man, I just like cried at the service. Yeah. And I told Pastor Adam, I'm like, this is where we're supposed to be.
That's awesome.
And we hadn't moved here yet, but we were in the process or going to. And that was like the thing that closed the door on that, like we're doing it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty life-changing. Then I think baptized 6 months later or something like that.
So how is that? I'm just curious, like that relationship, how has that changed how you parent? How has that changed how you're a husband, man?
Right. Like
yeah, you were a good guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. We're doing it. We were working hard and we were doing it. How has that changed? Definitely give more grace. It's changed 100% how I coach. We probably I don't know if you can give too much grace, but we sit down with players that are struggling or they're having an issue, and we actually just put them at our conference table and talk to them like our sons, like we love them. So we love them first before we even put out a consequence or accountability. Same with our kids. Man, what's bothering you? Why is this happening? When you get down to the why, you find a lot more than when you point the finger. And so, yeah, at one time I was this young, tough, just on one line coach, right? I had one line, and that was to win. And that's still an important goal, to win. Sure. But our whole model has flipped. You win when your kids feel safe, and when your kids have grace, and when your kids know, man, that guy just gave me grace and I made a terrible decision.
Yeah.
So giving that grace has just been a total transformation, especially, I get done at school. I still have to work quite a bit, still got to put in a lot of hours. But when I'm at home, I'm with my family. I'm not doing something else. I'm not thinking about the next day. Like I tell my wife, when I get home, I'll be at home, because that was a major issue. Always responding to emails and always texting and things like this. And I prayed about that peace, like, please, because I couldn't turn it off. Right. I said, please give me that peace at home with my boys. Same as this weekend. We had wrestling tournaments this weekend. Something in my head said, man, I got this other football event. I probably should skip that. And God was like, no, you're not going to skip your kids' wrestling tournament. He gave me that peace to be there and to watch and to really love that.
Yeah, that's good. And that's such an important gift to your family too.
Right.
You remember the name Coach Gene Stallings?
Yes. I think so.
Of course, I'm an Alabama guy.
Right.
And Coach opened up his home to me and let me kind of hang out with him and learn from him. And man, it was one of the best moments in my entire life. And I asked him like 6 pages of questions, stayed with him. Like, it was awesome, dude, out on his ranch out in, in Texas. But this is a question I asked him. I said, and I was 45, Mark, at the time. I said, Coach, hey, if you were to give me any advice at this stage in my life, what would what advice would you give me? And he said, it's very simple, Wendell. He said, it's really easy for your home to become a filling station. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you come home, you're exhausted from the day, you get filled up on a meal, you get filled up on rest, and then you leave and go empty yourself outside your home. And he said, the most important thing that you can ever do is to make your home an emptying station. He said, when you get home, you better make sure you got gas in the tank. They're the people that are the most important to you. And then I asked him, I was like, all right, Coach, I get it. That's good. I said, but let me ask you this. Where do I get filled up then? Right. And he said, you're a man, Wendell. He said, you figure it out, but don't you dare step home without having gas in the tank. And I thought,
that's good.
That's good advice. That'll translate to a lot of things. So where do I get filled up at? And the moment I go to bed, that's when I get filled up. Other than that, it's for everybody, right? That's what it's supposed to be.
And that was very similar. Like, when I was going through building a career in the beginning, I said, just this kid from nowhere in Oxford, Ohio, to a pretty good football coach in Ohio, which we know football in Ohio is a big deal, right?
It is.
And, I went home to my wife and I said, we have a house. We don't really have a home. Like, we need to build a home. Like, we have beautiful kids and they're athletic, but that was getting in the way. Like you're saying, I was going home empty.
Yeah.
My brain was other places. So, when you said when 2.5 years ago, when we made this life change, couldn't have done it without God. Like, he's the one that gave the courage. You feel like you're throwing away your career, right? But it wasn't. It was just it was refreshing, and it kind of charged us. But the first thing we did when we were building the house, sleigh ball builders, very good builders around Knox County, we said, hey, can we come in and we put some Bibles in the house and the walls. Katie picked up her favorite sayings, or, might have been Psalms. It might have been whatever, verses, whatever. And we wrote those in marker throughout the house. And we said that's the key. God's going to help us build a home. We really downsized. We didn't want a big house for that reason.
Yeah.
When I'm home, I want to hear the kids playing in the other room.
Yeah.
We're going to eat dinner together. We're going to do those things. And I think it's really something that's missing in the current culture of our world, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I just said, we're going to bring that stuff back. And what's fun is too, we brought that to the team. So like, we eat as a team. My boys, my family's here as a team. Make it your extension of my family, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's led to our turnaround or our success too.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as coaching, you've given a lot more grace since you've had this relationship with God, right? But you've also probably, and correct me, man, you've probably seen the value and worth in people that you didn't see before. When you're trying to get somewhere, everybody's almost like a step on the ladder getting up to where you want to go. And then all of a sudden, man, God resets priorities. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, everybody's valuable and everybody's got a story too, right?
Right. So that's funny you say that. Like, we're out getting kids that, out in the hallways that you would think never play. But our whole model of why to play football has changed.
Yeah.
It's a vehicle just to get kids food and to get kids involved in the community events we do, and to get kids off the streets after school. So the whole model of get the best players to win is not our model anymore now. What's crazy is when you believe in kids, we had 7 freshmen on the field last year because we believed in them and they performed.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was doing that. My whole part of my first career is I only saw kids, how good they were, not what they were going to become.
Yeah.
And not as players, but as people. And I did say that. I said, this is all for nothing if you turn around and be bad people.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then what's good people, all those things are rooted in faith, honestly. If you read the book, it's about being a good person, because in my opinion, being a good person was defined by the Bible.
That's right.
Finding affordable healthcare can be stressful. And some people think that insurance is their only option, which is why CHM was the first to establish a cost-sharing ministry. CHM is not insurance. It's a budget-friendly alternative with a focus on protecting families and supporting fellow Christians. Here's how it works. Each month, members send money to help pay for the eligible medical bills of their fellow members. As their own needs arise, they can submit eligible medical bills for reimbursement. Since members pay healthcare providers directly, they can get discounts, which makes costs more affordable for everyone. Plus, members have the freedom to choose their own healthcare providers. CHM is healthcare done differently, and it doesn't have to be stressful. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're spending less, helping fellow Christians, and protecting your family.
That's your roles,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I have a good friend. His name is Shane. In fact, we did a podcast with him. Shane, by the time he was 16, was all alone. He was raising himself in a dilapidated trailer that his granddad gave him. He was abandoned. He was working a full-time job, but his high school football coach, Shane's a big guy. His high school football coach, even though Shane had to work a full-time, let him participate and be a part of the team. And Shane said that entire experience made all the difference in my life. He said it gave me a community that I didn't have, that I wouldn't have had if it would have been just about the rules of you got to be here at every practice. He said I couldn't, And he said it just changed everything about my life. So, man, I think that's an awesome testimony to how God changes our thinking and changes the way that we live our lives. And we see ourselves as, man, I got to pour into somebody else. Like everything is about pouring into the next person, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
It really is. And, I was interviewing new coaches for this the newer job that I got. And like, there was one question, tell me about your life and what kind of dad are you? Before I was all enamored on, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And if you put yourself around bad people, you quickly become bad. And it's crazy. You're the summation of the 5 people you're around, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, it's a feel thing, but I feel like God's given you the strength to overcome bad people, but you have to make that choice. So he's given you that option to make that choice.
Yeah.
To see how faithful you are to him.
Yeah.
And,
that's it.
And that's where you regret things that you've ever done because you're like, I didn't make the right choice. But then, when you go to church service and they talk about, well, his blood was, given to all of you to now make it right. If I'm looking at that right, but you know what I mean? He died on that cross so that you can be saved. And regardless of what you've done in your past, you can right the ship.
Yeah.
But you still got to make a change. You got to make a choice, So.
Yeah.
So I think that's, surrounding yourself and when you're hiring people, like, are they a good person? I think that's like my number one, like, would you want your son around them, or your daughter or whatever? I think that's really been a huge change in my life and my career too.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because too many times, take Hiron, everybody's focused on the resume, on the accolades, what they've accomplished. We're not really taking that step. And as a believer, we should. We're concerned about the whole person, right? Not just what you can do for me, but who are you and what kind of person can you become too? Which is probably something you look at with your players a lot too. You're always trying to probably coach them up to that next level and encourage them to take that next step too, right?
Absolutely. Being in a public school, it's probably tough because you don't want to ever give your opinions too much, right?
Sure.
But so once again, how do you operate? How do you show them more than tell them?
Yeah.
So by the way you operate and by the way you carry yourself and in your actions, because they know you can never fool a locker room. They know who you really are.
Yeah.
So if you can show them the right way, it's been something crazy here, is all of a sudden you start seeing new faces show up at church on Sundays. I never asked them to come.
Yeah.
But they know what you're about. And then they know that, man, there's something is different going on in this guy's life that I'm interested in, or I want to see that same thing maybe.
Yeah.
And just by the way you carry yourself, I think throughout the week is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So now on the coaching side of things, right? Don't you hold the record at Taze Valley for the best record in their high school history? Is that right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I believe that's right. As a Pickaway County guy for a minute, right? I believe that's right. And then I think it's important too for people that are believers that are coaching, right? Because there's this balance of competitiveness but also lifting the person up. And you articulated that very well. Look, yeah, we still want to win. That's part of success, right? Because when everybody is pulling the same direction, all of a sudden good things start to happen, right? When everybody's concerned about the right things, the right things start to happen. So, and you've had some success at Mount Vernon High School as well, too, right?
For sure. Yeah. It's just been like I said, a culture thing. But I just feel like it's different here with this new lead on life. The little things we don't get so bent out of shape about,
Yeah.
You lost a game, big deal. Let's move forward. So we could try to fix that, and leading with grace.
Yeah.
Leading with standards, leading with, basically leading your sons is essentially what it's like. But I think that word grace is big. Humility. That first year I came to Mount Vernon, it wasn't so good. It was 2-8. And I'm like, you're trying to teach me something here,
Yeah.
What are you teaching me? And you're trying to look at that. You're trying to look at the bad things as lessons, and how ultimately, and I tell my guys that, ultimately, how is God trying to teach me some lessons here? It's going, whatever you want to do, you got to have faith, right? Full faith. And just because you don't get the result you want doesn't mean you have to turn your back on the plan.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
A big plan, a larger plan. So
yeah. If that were the case, we probably wouldn't want to go to heaven, because we're not always going to get the results we want this side of heaven, right?
100%.
If we're just looking for that result, for a Christian, we're living for something more than here and now. We're living for eternity, for the promise of something better than what I got. Right.
I'll tell you, and it is a little fear based, because, I woke up one day just like thinking, I'm 37. So what if I did die like today? I know this is kind of morbid, but what if I did die? Am I going to heaven? That's a real question to ask yourself. Would I go to heaven? And, I was like, man, I hope is what in my head, I hope, but I wasn't 100% sure. For my kids, for my family, I'm like, they're going to heaven, right? And I wanted that same thing, that same answer. I know that's pretty deep, but when I started to be able to answer that, my mental clarity, my mental struggle went away.
Yeah.
I feel like I struggled mentally. I'm not sure would I burn forever. I don't want to burn for eternity.
Yeah.
So there was a little fear. I think I'm a God-fearing person too. I think that's in a healthy way.
Yeah.
I know he's got my back, but you better not turn your back on him.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to honor him with our whole lives, right?
Right.
I heard somebody say the other day, and I'd never thought about it this way. This individual said, life is meaningful because it ends. And I thought, man, that's a really deep statement, right? My life, your life, the guys on your football team, your family, our family, everything is meaningful. The reason the moments matter is because we don't get them forever, because
100%.
they end. That's why it's important.
Like that.
If you only got one shot at this, if we only get one moment for this, man, we gotta maximize it, because it doesn't last forever.
Right.
So yeah. If you were to say, man, so overcoming adversity, what's one of the toughest things, Mark, you've overcome in your life?
Well, that one's tough. I thought about that. I feel like I've had an easier life than some. I think I've gotten extreme. I used to use the word luck. I've been blessed in a lot of areas. I don't think there's really luck, right? It's probably a blessing. In college, I had a pretty big injury to my neck, and I couldn't play college football for the rest of my career. I thought that at the moment was the biggest thing in my life, the biggest faced adversity, right? But then if you fast forward, I helped the coaches after I got injured, and then that led me to my coaching career. So then I'm like, if I look back then, it was the biggest set of adversity, but it was actually a blessing, right?
Yeah.
So in the moment, that adversity, you feel like is a bad thing. My wife wanting to move, 80 miles away and restart my career, I thought was, oh my gosh, this is not what I planned. I planned to be a Hall of Fame, blah, 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 and keep winning, blah, 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 and not take over a program that isn't any good.
Yeah.
But now 2 years into it, I realized it was a blessing, like the biggest blessing that has ever happened to me, because it led into a new life, like a totally new life. I can't even explain. Someone's like, what do you mean a new life? Just the way you think, the way you feel, the way you sleep, the anxiety's gone. So I would say, the injury in college was big at that point in my life, because you think college is the biggest part of your life at that point. And then, up and leaving a career at a place you've been 15 total years, or, well, I guess it'd be 14 total years, to up and leave that. And you built that to go to a place where you have no friends, you have nothing really, but you do.
Yeah.
So those two things stick out to me, that adversity. But like I said, I can't call them really adversity, because when you look at them now as an opportunity and blessings, it totally shifts your mindset. Like, it makes you scared of nothing as far as to take risk.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like, man, I think I could conquer anything with God on my side. If I don't get the job, or I don't get the opportunity or the promotion, like, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And young kids really need that, it seems like, when they miss opportunities, right? So we talked to them about that, as like, just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. That's good.
So I don't know. I haven't had anything traumatic, like, major, but I've had some things in my life that were tough and very challenging.
Sure. Well, or even, man, you leave a career, a place where you were, revered, loved, right? As a coach. I mean, you had created a lane that was yours, that nobody else could touch. And then to step out of that, and then to go to another place and go 2-8, that's adversity, right? Man, a lot of self-doubt that rolls in there. Man, what I did in the past should just work. I just rinse and repeat it, and we should get this thing rolling again, right? And there's a lot of that comes into it, because everything with God is a lesson to be learned. Everything. Romans 5 says that suffering produces character. So, I mean, just point blank says this present suffering produces character. And so, adversity, if we look at adversity as setbacks, we're going to constantly be chasing our tail. But if we look at adversity as a way to propel us to greatness, then, man, that changes our framing of every suffering we go through. Because, wait, hold on, this can be the thing that I learned something that makes me better the next time, right?
Right.
And because suffering's a part of everybody's life. Everybody suffers in one way, shape, form, or another.
Right.
It's coming for all of us. So how we respond to that is really paramount to God being able to lead us and guide us in the way that He wants to.
That's funny you bring that up, because I just recently had that conversation with my wife. She's like, all the crazy things in the world happening. She's like, do you think we'll see the end? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, when He comes back for all of us. I said, well, I don't know that it matters, because we all have an end date, right?
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
So maybe not. I don't know. But I said, I have a date that's predetermined, right? Pre-existent. And let's just make sure we're living through Him every single day. And when he comes for us, or, me or you, let's celebrate and embrace, I don't want this to be, this kind of, once again, kind of morbid, right?
Yeah.
But you live in a time that we're trying to instill like anxiety and fear. And it's like, no, we're not going to live that way. We're going to live, we're going to live with love. And that's really changed, man, how we do things. Because it was something that was geared towards always wanting a return on something, or always wanting to see your value based on a number, rather than seeing your value in what the things you're doing, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We can be performance orientated with our lives, where it's all about what I produce, right? Or we can orientate our lives on who we are, and basically performance. This is the word I lost in the second, because I'm getting old, man.
Right.
But from performance, we can be performance focused, or we can be process focused. Right. And
Love
process gives me results. Process teaches me that there's something else to learn. Performance says when I fall short, I'm not worth anything. But process teaches me that there's opportunity for me to learn from it too.
Right.
So, yeah. Just last question for you. If you were gonna, so give me your best coach talk. All right. Somebody's in a struggle. You got a football player that made a bad decision. Pretend somebody's listening. They made a bad decision. Coach them up, coach. Just tell them, man. Tell them.
Man, putting me on the spot. That's good. So yeah, they've made a terrible decision. Okay. Maybe it affects their future. Maybe it doesn't, whatever. Is this during the game or post game? What is this? I need some more
during
background.
the game. It's in the moment, man.
Oh, it's in the moment. Okay. I'm still grabbing them by the face mask because I know I love them.
All
They
right.
know I love them. Okay. And this has happened. This is true. And I don't really want to let the world know because they'll know my tactics, but they just got a personal foul and it cost the game. Right. And I already know the administration, the fans, they got to be more disciplined. That's the big thing. Right. And I know that choice lost us the game. Right. I've had this happen. And, I'm just yelling at him, right? And I got his face mask, but I'm not yelling at him at all. I'm yelling at him. Hey, I'm just act like I'm yelling at you. So the fans and the administration thinks that you're going to be more disciplined in the future. Coach gave you the right act. But what I want to tell you is, hey, we're going to have to make better choices in the future here, but I still love you.
Yeah.
And I've done that numerous times. Hey, just stand here and act like you're getting just ripped, right? Football is a game of intensity.
Yeah.
And when you do that with players and they're like, wait a second, he's not yelling at me. I mean, it's a big, personal fouls are always one that stands out to people, right?
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily know the game from the stands, and I'm giving this kid, because what does he doesn't need me on top of, he already knows he messed up.
Yeah.
Because he was living in the moment, right? And it always comes down to penalties. They come walking over like a sad dog is what I look at it like. It's like you could just see it on their face. You know how the dog, he knows what he did.
Yeah. I'm
like, here, I'm going to grab your face mask here. And just like real, it's nothing crazy. And the stands are like, oh my gosh, he's going at it. He's up in his face. And I'm actually giving that player love at that moment. Like, we'll look at it later because, they come over. I could have let up. I just didn't. Or, I didn't want to stand over and my emotions took over. These are 16, 17-year-old kids. Yeah. And I go, well, it's going to look like I'm ripping you from the stands, but I just want you to know we'll look at it later, but I still love you, man. I still trust you. Yeah. And you can like see it leave their bodies when they're like, you're playing the theatrics of it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that happens a lot in the coaching world. It's theatrics as far as, okay, it gets people off his back. Because my biggest thing is to take all the stress away from the kid and not put them in fight or flight. Because when they're in that fight or flight mode, then it just compounds. So like, do you take that kid out and set him for the rest of the game? What did you just do to that kid?
Yeah.
Like,
good.
And most coaches that do that are emotional people, and they're the ones acting crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of put a spin on it. I know that's a long-winded response, but even in the moments when we want to rip at them, we go, hey, for the show of it, we're going to act like we're ripping you, but we're really not.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
then on Monday, we'll teach them up. On Monday, we pull them in and look at it in an intellectual way, not an emotional way.
Hey, don't you think, like, I don't know if you put this together, Mark, but we're supposed to be, as a dad, we're supposed to be the example of Christ to our family. As a coach, as a leader in community, you're supposed to be an example of Christ. Right. And I don't know if you've ever fully ran that through, and I'm sure you have. You're a lot smarter than me. But when you grab the kid by the face mask, you're a type of Christ to him. Right. He deserves judgment, but you're offering him grace instead. Right.
100%. Yeah. And it's like a physical, like we never would, people, oh, you can't do that anymore. Well, you can.
Yeah.
But not if you're being violent.
Yeah, that's so good.
You know what I mean? Like if you were being violent, you would be fired in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But what if or we'll do it behind the head, maybe not the face mask, but behind, like hug them almost.
Man, that's so good. Like, don't you think, I mean, seriously, sometimes you look at mistakes or evil in the world, and Christians even sometimes are like, God, punish them, give it to them, God. And God grabs them by the face mask and goes, listen, hey, we're going to talk about this, but I want you to know I still love you. There's still forgiveness for you, right?
100%. And I think that's where we've been able to develop those deep relationships, because they're like, man, I heard that a lot. The previous guy would have kicked me off, or the previous guy. We don't kick anybody off. Why? Because then what can, if you're not here under our influence, then what?
Yeah.
Like, now there might be consequences, like you said, but it's going to be after the fact, after the emotion has cooled.
It's good.
I've seen a lot of guys get up after something, bad choices, and become some of the best people and Christ followers you've ever seen. I mean, but somebody had to give them grace. People have given me grace in my life, and I was like, in your head, you're like, God put that person in my life, right? They shot it straight with me, like they were honest with me, but they gave me grace.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Well, Mark, hey, listen, and for everybody listening, if you're in Ohio, it's going to be really hard for you to pull against Mount Vernon High School and Mark Weber if you're a believer at all. It's kind of hard. It's kind of the same thing my wife said about Coach Rick as an Alabama guy. She could never root against him ever because he took such good stands on where he was as a believer. Mark, it's awesome that you're pouring in to this next generation. I'm so glad for that. I wish that my son would have been a little bit younger and that he could have played for you at Mount Vernon High School instead. Because I think you'd have been very good for him. Very good for him. So thanks, man, for holding true and for being a man of God to these young men. And I don't need to thank you for being a man of God to your family. That's something that's coming from the Lord. But thanks for living it out. All right, man.
Thank you, Wendell. Really appreciate you.